Hello, Brother Monroe here. Welcome to a very short video where I am announcing that version 2 of the Dreadnought improvement project is ready and either has been or will soon be up on Nexus Mods. Thank you to everybody who has helped test out version 2. It's been extremely helpful. It's gone through about 40 different revisions. It's had actually had quite a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and I'm releasing it just now. The old version 1 I will keep up to date for version 1.5 of the game, because I mean I want to make sure that if you prefer the 1.14 that is available for at least the rest of the main patch. However, what is new? Well, there's quite a lot that has changed. To start off with, guns have been completely redone. Thank you very much to the Baron, author of the Naval Arms Race mod, for help with that. They should now perform much more predictably, much closer to what you kind of expect guns to be able to do. Their performance has been tuned quite a lot, which feeds into the fact that the barrel length changes have been toned right down from version 1. You shouldn't run into situations where you lengthen a gun and accidentally make it completely terrible. You shouldn't run into situations where having a super short gun is just instantly better because it's better in every way and cheaper. So there's been a lot of work on the guns to rework them. The other thing that has been reworked with guns is when you get access to the mark of gun, which is actually why I started working on a version 2, because what I was finding was that I was waiting ages for a Mark III 14-inch gun to come along. And so I took another look at when gun marks actually unlock. And what will happen now is you'll obviously start out with Mark 1 pretty much everything, but essentially what will happen is the higher marks will come in from the smallest gun to the largest, and all the dates are being shuffled around generally later. So what you'll find is that if you are certainly in the Dreadnought era, you're probably going to be using Mark II guns. Mark III guns don't really show up until the interwar period, 1920s, 1930s. Depending on the size, obviously you're going to get the small guns first. You're not going to get Mark IVs until the 1930s, or possibly later, depending on your tech level, obviously. And the Mark Vs are going to show up much closer to the 1940s. And that feeds into the fact that, as well, the radar and reloading techs will also appear later, usually after you get Mark V guns appearing, especially the smaller ones. So there's a lot more going on in the late game for you to do. It's not going to be a case that you get to kind of like 1942 and you've already researched everything. There will still be techs that you actually want that you haven't got right into kind of 1950s. Belt penetration has been completely redone as well. Belt penetration has been completely redone to again distracted by the random battle. So that it's a bit more linear. It's no longer the case that big guns have ridiculously high penetration, and it also means that more realistic thicknesses are actually a viable thing. For instance, if you have an Iowa class with a 12-inch belt, that will actually keep out a 16-inch round at around 20,000 meters plus, depending on various factors. But you know, that's not at a crazy level of armor. This also helps the AI quite a bit because it doesn't need as much armor. Weights have been adjusted, particularly for cruisers, light cruisers, heavy cruisers. In particular, have had how the game calculates their weights changed to be basically the same as the way the game calculates weights for everything else. Means that you're no longer going to have crazy cruisers where you've got thousands of tons of extra displacement. You've already put everything on them. Just to make design of cruisers a bit more challenging. Torpedo tubes. The bigger the torpedo tubes, so like quadruples, quintuples, are now slightly more weight efficient than smaller ones, which is fantastic. For you know, there is a reason to go for a quintuple over other things aside from just space. The mine lane, mine sweeping, and depth charge components have been, well, not technically removed, because I tried doing that and it made the game crash. So what I did instead was I made them exclusive to torpedo boats, which go obsolete before any of those components become available. This should basically remove all of those components from the game, and I know that players are perfectly capable of, you know, being sensible and realizing that you don't need a depth charge, but the AI wasn't, so it's just to help the AI along a bit. Engine costs, both main and auxiliary, have been completely redone. Basically, you shouldn't get those crazy, like, $20 billion ships anymore. Ships are only going to be multi-billion if they are very, very big, you know, 100,000 tons plus, and you're trying to push them at high speed, 30 knots or something. Means that costs are a little bit more sensible now, just in general. This also helps the AI because they can't really build ships that are stupidly expensive but also completely useless. Although they can still do that. It's less of a thing. Similarly, propellers, the upgrades for propeller shafts have been made less expensive, again to stop the AI ballooning the costs of a ship with pointless things. But they're also slightly less effective, which means that ships shouldn't turn quite as well, although it's pretty minor adjustment there. Standard bulkheads now become obsolete, just to stop the AI doing stupid things. Basically the AI, as soon as reinforced 1 comes along, standard bulkheads becomes obsolete. So does standard reload. All the others, from enhanced to auto 2, are available, but standard reload will disappear when you get better reload text. Again, just trying to help the AI out. The component weights of the shell types have been adjusted as well. Essentially how it works now, this is again just for the AI. It's most likely to pick the rightmost AP shell, so it's most likely to go for a Cat Ballistic 2 if it's available, or whatever is down that end, and it's less likely to choose things towards the semi-AP end of the spectrum. But it is still a free choice for the AI. And for HE, it now kind of goes most likely to choose base fuse, and then it'll next most likely soft capped and cap ballistic and high capacity, and then nose fuse somewhat less, and then incendiary the least likely. Again, just trying to help it make some sensible choices. The base detection of torpedoes has been reduced. It is now 500 meters, just to help with torpedo attacks on AI ships. ammo detonation damage has been increased. For instance, if you have a battleship like this one and you get an explosion in the casement ammunition, that can be pretty bad. It's not going to kill the ship or anything, but yeah, ammo detonation damage has gone up. I have changed how flooding works. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10. Yeah, I think every ship in the game has 10 compartments down the bottom here that can flood. I've changed the flooding threshold to 75%. What that does in reality is it means that as long as you have 3 dry compartments, then your ship will not sink. This has made ships a little bit harder to sink, but not a lot, I'll be honest. But what it does mean is that if you've built your ship with a reasonably sized citadel, you shouldn't be able to lose the ship to flooding unless the enemy is able to penetrate your citadel. It doesn't mean your ship can't be rendered unable to fight. You can mission kill a ship by flooding out its stern and its bow, but you can't actually finish it off unless you get some water into the center of the ship, which makes a lot more sense to me, and means that particularly things like battleships are quite hardy to damage to their extended bits, basically making an all or nothing style of armor actually a bit more viable. As part of, again, helping the AI, which obviously the all or nothing really helps it because the AI loves to not put any armor on their ships. Sorry, that's a different point. I've reduced the maximum speed of ships, I think, to reasonably high amounts. This is to stop the AI building stupidly fast ships. So the class maximums are 36 knots for a battleship, 40 knots for any type of cruiser, and 45 for a destroyer, which I think is still pretty darn quick. Heavy cruisers have had their maximum gun size for a secondary gun reduced to 5-inch. There was a really weird possibility that if you can still put in 6-inch casements, you can see a ship here has done so, but these count as mains, not secondaries. There was a really weird interaction where you could do odd things. Actually, how could it do that? Excuse me, I'm just going to head to the builder. Might actually have to update the mod. Yeah, heavy. I just want to have a look at a heavy cruiser, right? Design ship. Because that ain't right. So a heavy cruiser, clear. Yeah, only has 5-inch secondary guns as an option. How did it manage to get a 6-inch casement? Bizarre. Anyway, it's probably a custom. One thing I will say is previous designs and saves are not compatible. I would recommend clearing out your custom battle save and any shared designs you have, even if you're using the Dreadnought improvement project beforehand, because you do get weirdness like we just saw, because I have not cleared out my custom battle save since the last time I played, and obviously the AI is able to cheat. But yes, heavy cruisers now, the biggest gun that they can fit as a secondary is a 5-inch gun. This was to stop a very weird interaction where you could fit both main and secondary 6-inch guns at the same time, which caused problems with the auto builder. But as well, the game would get confused if you mounted 6-inch guns of any type So if you fitted them as secondary 6s, it would treat them as main 6s, and there was all sorts of weird stuff going on there. So that has been fixed. Apologies if you love having 6-inch casements on your armoured cruisers. I apologise. I've made some more attempted improvements to the auto builder, mostly around, aside from the ones I've mentioned, mostly around guns. It shouldn't try and just put the biggest guns possible on a ship. I'm still working on getting the auto builder to put armor on ships. I did actually have it working, and then the developers changed how the auto builder prioritizes armor, and now it doesn't put any armor on. Again, I am continually working away at it. It's very difficult to do when the underlying logic of the auto builder gets changed. Anyway, partial pens have been reworked, which took a while. But basically, if you see a gun, let's just pick a 10-inch gun. If it says that here it says 0.2 inches of armor, I know I won't have said it, but let's say you have 0.2 inches of HE pen. It should only get a partial pen against like 0.3 inches of armor. 0.4 and higher should be safe from getting a partial pen. Because the partial pen threshold has been set at 80%. So to choose another example, that 2.9-inch AP pen, you would expect that 3.5 inches of armor or more, you shouldn't get any form of partial pen. Which ties into some of the other changes that I've made to shells. The partial pen damage has gone down. Fuse and ricochet effects have been toned down significantly. So you should see fewer ricochets. You should see fewer partial pens. If you're getting a partial pen, it should now be an indicator that you're quite close to being able to actually go through the armor if you get a bit closer. Rather than just having partial pens all the time, particularly from HE shells. What all this does is makes high explosive shells very dangerous if a ship doesn't have enough armor to keep the high explosive shells out. So make sure that you arm your ship to protect against high explosive shells of whatever caliber you think you're going to be going up against. But if you have a properly armoured ship, high explosive is probably only going to be useful for destroying their upworks. So taking out the superstructure, the towers, fire control, maybe the bridge, maybe disabling a couple of guns because, you knock the turret off its bearing or something like that. But you're not going to be able to sink a ship with HE partial pens. You're not going to be able to sink a ship with HE damage to the extended bits unless you can actually break the ship apart. You're not going to be able to sink ships with fire. You do actually have to be able to actually hit the well protected bits of a ship in order to put it down. Assuming the ship is well built, of course. If you're fighting thinly armoured things, they're going to die very, very quickly. So high explosive is still very, very useful for that. Very useful if you, for instance, a battleship, you want some high explosive because you'll basically be able to blow up destroyers and light cruisers very easily. I think that is it for the changes to battles and designing. There are also some modifying things and some changes to the campaign. I have reduced unrest modifiers. AI countries in version 2 are now very, very stable. They will still get rebellions and things if they get a, you're absolutely smacking them around. Or if they conquer too much stuff at once and they don't have the army to control it. they can end up being, having trouble, basically. Submarines have been removed from the research screen completely, so you're no longer wasting research on that, which is lovely. The AI personalities, I've tried my best to tweak them, to make them a bit more aggressive, to build more ships, to keep more ships, to refit ships more often. Although, as anything with the AI, it's a little bit tricky. And last, but by no means least, something that you may be not going to have expected. A kind of one more thing, a little bonus that I've thrown in. I don't know why the menu's taking a million years to load up. There we go. The Naval Academy. You may notice I have actually completed the Naval Academy. And no, I did not cheat. What I have done is on version 2, I have gone through and I have completed all of the missions and all of the stupid missions. For instance, this first one, where there is some form of ridiculous thing that makes the mission unnecessarily hard, such as in target practice, what was it, like 20-minute time limit or something. I have gone through, and whatever I thought was making the mission stupid, again, according to my own opinion, I have changed it. So that could be a time limit, it could be the number of enemies, it could be the tech difference between you and the enemy, it could be the budget that you have. All of the missions should now be possible, which means that the Naval Academy, in my opinion, in version 2 of the Dreadnought Improvement Project, is no longer a weird, sort of very frustrating challenge mode, but is actually a tutorial. So, if you have not tried the Naval Academy, or people have told you not to try the Naval Academy because it's just really difficult, have a go. Now, okay, I've gone through, I've made, the missions aren't like super easy, it's still hard enough to teach you kind of the fundamentals of the game, but the Naval Academy should now function more as a tutorial rather than some form of Sisyphean punishment. Yeah, so there you go. That's all the changes in version 2 of the Dreadnought Improvement Project. Both that and version 1 will be maintained until Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts 1.6 comes along, and then it will be version 2 only. You have been warned, and you have been warned. You do have to clear out your saves and your save designs and all that stuff. This is for if you want to start a new save. Hey, you don't have to download it straight away. If you still have a campaign going on vanilla or on the Dreadnought Improvement Project version 1, finish it up, and then maybe for your next one you'll think about trying version 2. It's great. Trust me, I've been having loads of fun with it in the 2 campaigns that I've been doing most recently. It's been really, really good, and I highly recommend it. Oh, wait, no, there was a change. I changed the colours of Spain and China, but I showed that off, or I will be showing that off in a video very, very soon. Yeah, map colours have been slightly tweaked. I am colourblind, so my tweaks might not be to everyone's taste, but generally I have tried to make the colours a little bit more distinct and legible. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me waffle on. I really hope you try out version 2 of the mod. If you have any issues, feel free to comment on this video, but as well you can submit bugs or comments on Mod Nexus or on the thread on the Game Labs forum, and I hope you enjoy it. Bye for now.